Mr. President.
Senator from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Are we in a quorum call, Mr. President?
We are not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, as I speak here today on the United States Postal Service Reform Act, Russian President Vladimir Putin is waging a cruel, unjust, and barbaric war of choice, financed by a global addiction to fossil fuels, an addiction which Russia is only too happy to exploit right now. And the most effective way to reduce the long-term security threat to Ukraine and Europe and the United States and the whole world is to say that we are going to empty Vladimir Putin's oil and gas-funded piggy bank, setting ourselves and our allies on the course to a future powered by domestic clean energy. We can use the power of our federal government to not only apply sanctions, but also destroy Putin's dirty energy business model. The United States government has 700,000 vehicles in its fleet. 160,000 of the United States government's vehicles belong to the United States Postal Service. Our Postal Service could play an important role in destroying the Putin business model by committing to clean instead of dirty energy to fuel its fleet. And it should start by reversing Postmaster General Louis DeJoy's short-term decision to buy dirty new postal trucks, energy-inefficient postal trucks, gas-guzzling postal trucks. As we import oil from Russia, we don't need a new fleet of gas-guzzling postal vehicles in the United States. Because if we don't get a truly next-generation electric fleet of postal trucks, we need the next generation of Postal Service leadership delivered express to the American people. This is just the latest stop in DeJoy's disastrous postal route, and it's time for him to resign. This is just a leftover agenda from the Trump years, this commitment to inefficiency, to the consumption unnecessarily of oil and natural gas in our country. The Postal Service Board of Governors and the Biden administration just can't let this bad business, bad for climate, bad for health decision to stand. If DeJoy won't get rid of this decision, the United States Postal Service should get rid of him, especially at this moment where Russia is fueling an unconscionable invasion of Ukraine with oil money from the United States. It's the American people who have been paying $20 billion a year for Russian oil coming into our country to put in the gasoline tanks of the United States. And then he takes that money and uses it to buy tanks and planes and weapons to invade the Ukraine. A new fleet of electric postal trucks would receive a stamp of approval from the American people, as it would lower costs, reduce pollution, and provide public health benefits while backing out the Russian oil that comes into our country every single day. Louis DeJoy wants to claim he doesn't have the money to go electric. But that false statement should be marked return to sender. One study found that full electrification would save the United States Postal Service $4.3 billion over the lifetime of the fleet. In other words, going all electric saves money. for the American taxpayer because going all electric is cheaper than going all gasoline or all diesel. We just save money, but we don't have to send any money to Putin to run our postal service, because that just doesn't make any sense in 2022. Since taking office in 2020, Louis DeJoy has tried to pinch pennies at the United States Postal Service. So why is he now proposing a fiscally irresponsible plan that leaves $4.3 billion on the table instead of in the United States Postal Service budget? If our new postal fleet is made up of vehicles that get less than 10 miles to the gallon, no better than the vehicles already in use, we're going to be tying our mail delivery system of the future to the dirty inefficient vehicle strategy of the past. We shouldn't be proposing the Postal Service use the same energy from the time of the Pony Express. And these vehicles that we're using today move at about the same speed as the Pony Express. It's time for us to just think smarter and not harder. That's all electric. That's backing out oil. That's just saying that we can have an infinity sign next to the efficiency of these vehicles which we are driving, and not this 10-mile-a-gallon 1930s, 1920s view of how efficient the postal vehicles in our country should be. So this is simple. Electric postal trucks are cheaper. Electric postal trucks are cleaner. And this isn't charity, it's business. And you don't have to take my word for it. Ask some of our most successful companies in the mail delivery industry. These are the competitors to the Postal Service. The Postal Service is constantly coming up here saying, we need more subsidies. We need more help to compete against these private sector competitors. Well, UPS just placed a 10,000 vehicle purchase order for electric trucks. FedEx is moving to achieve a fully electric fleet by the year 2040. And Amazon is purchasing 100,000 new electric delivery vehicles. That's 20 times more than our United States Postal Service is planning to get under Louis DeJoy. These trucks also would work for UPS's routes today. 96% of USPS routes are compatible with electric postal routes. Electric vehicles aren't the future. They work for us, for our budgets, and for our energy security right now. We need to protect our planet. And having all electric vehicles just dramatically reduces the greenhouse gases that we emit. But we also have to protect our national security. We have to be telling Russia, we don't need your oil any more than we need your caviar. And the only way to do it, ultimately, is for the United States to just find a way to break our addiction. And the way to break our addiction is to just move to the kinds of transportation, automotive, United States Postal Service vehicles that don't need oil and still get you just where you want to go. So that's our challenge right now. And we need to protect everything. Everything. Our health, our environment, our economy, our national security, and our own morality by ensuring that we move in this direction. And we need to protect our planet and our Postal Service by putting a forever stamp on our transportation future. A fleet of battery-operated electric vehicles that will usher in a clean vehicle revolution in America and destroy the demand for oil and gas so that the business model of Russia is destroyed. This is the weapon that we can be using. This is the message we should be sending to the rest of the world. So I urge the White House, the United States Postal Service, the Congress to take any and all possible steps to right this wrong decision from Louis DeJoy. The United States Postal Service needs to tear up this deal and buy a clean fleet. And if it doesn't, it needs to get a clean start without Louis DeJoy, who's looking at the world in a rear view mirror. We have to look straight ahead to this all-electric vehicle future. Let's ensure that the Postal Service next generation delivery vehicles create a livable world for the next generation, not only of Americans, but as a model for what the rest of the world has to do. And what I hear from my Republican friends, what I hear from the American petroleum industry is, well, the Biden administration should just open up more leases to drill for oil, to open up more leases immediately for more drilling. Well, here's the problem with the Republican Party. Here's the problem with the American Petroleum Institute. The oil industry, the oil giants, have hoarded thousands and thousands of leases on public lands all across the United States, and they have not drilled on them. I've introduced legislation for years saying, use it or lose it. You want the lease, you say it's imperative, you're going to pay for that lease, and then you don't drill on it? You know what they're doing? They just hoard all of that land. And the land is the size of huge states in our country. That's how much land they have right now, that is owned by the American people and leased to the oil companies. So they want to start drilling. Why did you bid for all those leases in the years gone by? Want to know why? They want to use this whole Russia situation as an opportunity to get even more leases that they won't drill on, and to get them cheap, and to create a false sense of emergency here, when if they want to drill, they've already got all of the leases they would ever need. They got a backlog of 20 years they haven't even started on. So when you hear these crocodile tears from the American petroleum industry, from the American prevarication industry, that's what it's all about. If they wanted to drill, they'd be drilling right now. Onshore, offshore, they've got the leases. All they want to do is just get more and more and more and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper from the American people, while fighting to stop an all-electric vehicle revolution, stopping a wind and solar revolution in our country. That's what their agenda is. That's what the American Petroleum Institute is all about. It's stopping an all-electric revolution. It's stopping a wind and solar revolution. It's stopping a battery revolution, because it destroys their business model as well, while hoarding leases, not drilling on them, and then coming in here, hat in hand, demanding in a lot of ways that we give them even more leases that they're not going to drill on. They're just going to hoard it and save it for years, decades, generations to come. It's sad. It's a sad commentary upon American corporate greed. But that's where we stand right now. So just be prepared to hear more lies on the American oil industry, lies that go right to the heart of what we really have to do as Americans for the next generation. And that's to stand up to those oil companies, stand up to the Russian oil oligarchs, and say, we're moving away from you historically. That's what young people in our country want. They want us to unleash our technological innovation genius in order to solve this problem. And it's wind and solar and all-electric vehicles and battery storage technologies. And it's a moral challenge for us. It's a national security challenge for us. It's an environmental challenge for us. It's an economic challenge for us. We can already see what the impact is of this oil control of the global economy has upon ordinary consumers in America and the rest of the world. Inflation is spiking. Oil. Russia is invading Ukraine. Oil. A new UN report says that we now have an ever more dangerous warming of our planet. Oil. And what did they do? They continue to lie. They continue to try to control our agenda so that we cannot pass the legislation to unleash our technological genius. That's our greatest strength. Their greatest strength are their natural resources. But ultimately, our greatest renewable resources are the brains of the American people, especially the younger people. Because if they were unleashed to invent and deploy all of these new technologies, it would revolutionize not just our country, but revolutionize the whole rest of the world. We gave the young people in our country in the 1990s and the early 2000s a chance to do that with our telecommunications system. It's now called the internet. It's called broadband. Young people did that. We have to give the same opportunity to young people to do the same thing so that we back out the oil, we revolutionize the way in which we transport ourselves, and we give hope to the rest of the planet that the United States is going to use all of its resources to accomplish that goal. So, Mr. President, I yield back.